I believe the biggest problem in the world is that people don't understand themselves enough. This show is designed to help you understand your INFJ personality, heal from your past, and create a life that you love. I'm Sarah Kuhn, and this is the Quiet Ones podcast. I've always had a problem making friends. I'm not really good at talking to people that I don't know. I know that sounds weird because I have a podcast and a YouTube channel, and I have a large following on social media, but it's true. I really hate talking to people that I don't know. I really don't like being around people for the most part, and when I am talking to people who I don't know or I don't know them very well, I'm always worried that I'll say something weird or awkward and that I won't be able to fix it. When I think about my friends or past friends, I usually put them into categories of where I met them. It helps me to understand them, and it tells me a lot about how we connected and why we connect. So I think about some of my childhood friends. My first friend was my oldest sister. She is 2 years older than me, and we grew up together. So we always had a connection. We were around each other a lot. And even though as we grew up, I realized that we were completely different. I guess you could say we have complementary personalities because she's everything that I'm not and vice versa. Another one of my childhood friends was somebody who I don't know that I would have picked. It was just that we were around each other a lot. Her parents were friends with my parents, and so we spent a lot of time together. And she was nice enough, though I don't really know that we had a lot in common except that our families were friends. I met another one of my childhood friends when I was in the 9th grade. I started school at a new school, and I was in the 9th grade, and there were probably maybe 10 or 15 kids that were in the 9th grade. And so at this school, because it was like a private church school, the 9th and 10th grade were combined, and then the 11th and 12th grade were combined. And so the friend that I met, she was in the 10th grade and I was in the 9th grade. But as soon as we started talking to each other, we basically did everything together. We would walk to all of our classes together. We ate lunch together. And then a lot of times we hang out after school as well. And she was a pretty good friend. I got along with her a lot, and we had a lot in common. After school, it's a lot harder to make friends once you graduate from high school and then from college. A lot of the people that I became friends with were people that I worked with. And really, when it gets down to it, basically the only thing that we had in common was that we worked together. One of my really good friends, I met her at the place that I worked, which this was while I was still in college, actually. I was working part-time, and it was a nonprofit, but it was also connected to a church. And so we became friends because we had shared religious values, and we had shared personal values, and then we had shared work values as well. And as we started to get to know each other, we realized that a lot of our families were the same, our personal struggles were the same. Even though we looked completely different on the outside, it was crazy to me how much we were the same. Some of my other friends, a lot of times I become friends with people who are 10 or 20 or even 30 years older than me because I have one of those, I don't know if it's a personality trait, I don't know if this is an all INFJ thing, but I have an old soul. I've never felt like I was a teenager. Even when I was a teenager, I didn't feel like I fit in with all of the people my age. I always felt like I was older than they were. I was never interested in the things that they were interested in. I always wanted to do other things and be involved in other things than what they were involved in. So a lot of my friends ended up being 20, 30 years older than me. A couple of my other friends I met at the same company that I worked for a few years ago. I don't think that we have hardly anything in common except that we worked for that company. And there are some places that you work that are so incredibly toxic that I feel like you almost get like a trauma bond with the people that you work with, because it takes a lot to go to work in those places every single day. And when you do and you make it through, then it feels like you're bonded with those people. And even though you don't really have that much in common with them, you still want to be friends with them because you shared something that was special, but in a bad way. I have two friends that I worked with in that place, and both of them are married. They both have several kids. They both make quite a bit more money than I do. We come from different parts of the country. We live in different areas of the city. I mean, you can just go down the list of all of these things that makes us different. And somehow we still get along and we connect really well. So, I mean, when you find people at work, sometimes it's the similarities that connect you. And I feel like sometimes it's the differences too. I have another set of friends too, which I always laugh because I think it's kind of funny. When I was young, like I said, I've always had problems making friends. And so when I was young, my mom used to tell me, well, you need to go find a hobby. Like, you can go take a class or find some type of a hobby where there are other people who like that hobby too. And then, you can do the hobby with them and then you can become friends. And I remember telling my mom, because she used to go through this like all the time, because I was always distraught that I didn't have friends. And so she would tell me this all the time. And I remember telling her, like, Mom, that is the stupidest thing that you have ever said in your life. Like, where did you come up with that? That's insane. Nobody's going to want to be my friend through something like that. And now here, all these years later, I had to go back and tell my mom, listen, I'm really sorry for calling you stupid. As it turns out, that was actually a great idea. I found some of my best friends through a shared hobby. And what it is, I happen to like this boy band from the 80s and early 90s, New Kids on the Block. And they go on tour usually every other summer, pre-COVID, they did. And they used to do a lot of events too. They have a cruise that they do. Again, pre-COVID, it was every year. But then, like, when they release a new album, they do autograph signings, and there's usually like fan club events and just all kinds of stuff that they do. And it seems like every time you go to one of these events, you end up having to wait in line. And sometimes you have to wait in line for multiple hours. I went to an event in like March of 2019, which is, again, hard to remember because it's pre-COVID. But I went to New York City by myself. And I was going to an autograph signing, and you had to get in line for a wristband. So it's basically like get in line to get in line. But I ended up being in line for like 14 hours. And when you stand in line for long enough, I really don't think it matters who you are. You're probably going to start talking to people around you, or they're going to start talking to you. And that was how I met one of my really good friends. Actually, she was standing in line behind me. And after, I don't know, a couple of hours, I started talking to her, and we realized we had more than just New Kids in common. And we stayed in touch. I haven't seen her since then. I probably would have if not for COVID. But we text each other all the time, and we talk on the phone, and we do video calls sometimes. And, it's nice to have somebody that I have a lot of things in common with, especially my love for this boy band. There are some other people, quite a few people that I've met actually, that I don't know that I would call them friends as much as acquaintances. A lot of people that I've just met at a show that I've met for meet and greet. Some people that I've bought tickets from. But it's nice to have those people who you know that when the New Kids are going on tour again, or when they're doing an event, those people are going to be there, and you have somebody to be excited about, this event with these people. Most of my other friends don't know who New Kids on the Block are, and they don't care, and they don't want to know. So it's nice to have people who, even though I may have nothing else in common with them, I have this one thing in common with them, and it gives us a reason to be connected. So for me, I look at my friends basically in 3 categories: childhood friends, work friends, and then my hobby friends, I guess you would say. And while all of my friends are important to me, the past and the present friends, I hold space in my heart for every single one of them, but there are some that I'm more connected with than others. Some who understand me more without me having to explain anything at all. So this is the 4th category that I call my INFJ friends. When I started my blog and this podcast and my Instagram account, I wanted to share my experience. I had been through this really difficult time in my life, and finding my personality type helped me immensely. It was really something that changed the course of my life. And so I thought, well, maybe there's somebody else out there that needs that same information that I can help. And that was really my only goal when I started. I never thought that, hey, maybe I could make friends with the people who read my blog or who follow my Instagram account. That was never my intention. It was just one of the fun benefits that came along that was very unexpected. And there are 3 or 4 people who really come to mind. One of them has become one of my best friends who I talk to almost every single day. And it makes all the difference in the world to have somebody who shares the same personality type. You connect on a completely different level than all of the other people, even the friends who I've had for 10 or 15 years. You just don't have to explain a lot of things. Even simple things like the fact that you don't go to parties, or when you do, you want to leave early. Being emotionally drained after so many things. Being able to hear like highly sensitive type of things, like hearing a clock ticking and it grating on your nerves. Wanting to have a connection, but then also wanting to be alone at the same time. And our typical INFJ desire for a higher purpose in your life, to have some sort of meaning. Most people don't understand that. So when you find somebody to be friends with who is your same personality, it's like a game changer. It makes all the difference in the world. As I started to make connections with INFJs and I realized how much different those types of friends are, I realized that part of my journey, part of my blog and my podcast should be connecting people together. But I really didn't know how to connect people. I tried multiple ways. I've had this idea for an INFJ community, is what I know it should be called. And people have been talking about that, using that term. And so I thought, okay, that seems to be the term that works. So how do we make this community? I tried Facebook. Facebook doesn't seem to be the place. And, Facebook it's getting to be a more and more volatile type of place. It seems like, especially lately, there's a lot of issues with Facebook. I guess we'll just put it that way. So there are some other platforms available that I've tried. Some of them just are complicated and difficult to use and just don't work. There was one that I really liked, but the problem was it was really expensive. And so after trying all these things, I realized that none of them were right. None of them were going to work. None of them were sustainable for the long term. But I still had this desire to create this community. I still had this, honestly, it almost feels like a calling. It feels like something that I'm supposed to do. And a lot of people mention it on social media. People send me messages about it. So I knew that I had to keep looking. And it was something that has been on my mind almost for 3 years now. So I knew that eventually I had to find something that would work. And so this year, I've been making some improvements on my website. I swear not a year goes by that I don't redo a part of my website. and this year is no different. I think what happens is every year the site comes up for renewal because you have to pay for your website like every year. You have to pay for the hosting. And every time the hosting comes up, I think, man, that's a lot of money. Like, do I really need to pay that? Or is there a better option? Is there something that would look better, that's easier to use? And so I've been using this one website builder for a couple of websites that I built for the company that I work for, my day job. And I started out hating it. Like, it was just like the worst possible thing in the whole entire world. But then, of course, the more I used it, the more I realized it was actually really nice. And once I figured out all of the nuances and all of the things that it could do, then I was like, oh, this is like super cool. So in building my site this year, I discovered that you could actually add a members area with things like a forum and groups and your whole profile thing, kind of like what you have on Facebook. And you could add all of those things really easily. And it didn't add any more to the cost of the website. And I was like, wow, this is exactly what I've been looking for. This is the community that we need. And this is a solution that we've been looking for. That's going to be, I feel like it's going to be really, really, really good. And even though it doesn't have 1,000% of all the functionality that I want, I really believe that the way that these websites update and the innovation that they put into them every year, that very shortly they will have all of the things that I had imagined that this type of community could have. So I think that it's a really good idea to start with a forum. It seems like a lot of people love that idea, and it's easy to find information. It's easy to contribute to it. It's more searchable than like a Facebook group would be. And plus, you don't have to worry about everything else that goes with Facebook, right? There's no ads on there. There's no distraction from anything else. There's no collection of information that's going to be sold to anybody. I'm the only one that will have your email address. So, and, you know, I don't sell your email addresses to anybody. But there is no, like, I know that Facebook does, like, tracking based on what you talk about and what you search for on the internet. If you've never heard of this, I promise you it's a real thing. So many times I've been talking to somebody, like, you always have my phone right next to me, right? And so a couple of years ago, I was talking to my boss, actually, about this company called Daily Harvest. And it was a newer company back then, and so there wasn't a lot of advertisements on TV and social media about it. And it's basically a company where they send you like frozen fruit in the mail that are like prepackaged in these smoothies. And so all you have to do is put them in a blender, and then you have like an organic whole foods type of breakfast. And so she was talking about these things, and I was like, wow, that seems really cool. And then I opened my phone and log onto Facebook, and all of a sudden there are all these ads for Daily Harvest. And I'm like, what? I didn't search for it on Google. I didn't talk about it at all other than talking to my boss about it. So I was like, wow, Facebook is really listening to you. And I guarantee you, if you have Facebook on your phone and you pay attention at all, you'll notice that when you start talking about these things, you'll start seeing ads for them. And obviously, when you search for something, especially if you search for it on Google, you'll see ads for it everywhere. But Facebook is really bad. And I mean, I see ads for it on Instagram too, which, is a part of Facebook. So it's kind of, I mean, when I sit down and think of it as a digital marketer, I think it's kind of like genius and really, really awesome. But then on the flip side of it, I think, wow, that's really, really scary. I don't know that I really want them listening to me all the time. So anyway, that was a massive sidetrack. The good part about this community not being on Facebook is you don't have to worry about any of that stuff. It's a secure community too. So you don't have to worry about people reading the stuff that you put on there and it getting shared all over the internet or anything like that. In order to contribute, you have to have a membership. But the great part is that because it's not adding any additional cost to me, I'm able to offer it to you for free. And I think that's the best part of it, because I know that there are a lot of us who live paycheck to paycheck, me included. I'm not going to lie. I am drowning in subscriptions already. I feel like not only on top of cable do I have like 12 other subscriptions, because every show that I want to watch is on some different streaming service. And then you end up with like Amazon, and if you have any subscription boxes, and I have a couple of subscriptions to like personal growth type of services too. So in order, to have this community and to have it to be free, I think is really amazing. And so I know that the most people will be able to benefit from it. I know that at least half of the people who follow me on Instagram aren't in the United States. So in order, to give those people the ability to participate as well for free, I think will be completely awesome. I'm really, really excited about this. I feel like this is a place that we can come together and share all of our ideas and experiences, where we can meet other INFJs, hopefully find some that we connect with and become friends, and we can come together and really support each other in a way that only INFJs can. We talk a lot about supporting other people and not having that type of support ourselves. And I totally get that. I know exactly what that feels like. On the flip side, when you have friends who are INFJs, they understand that, and they're able to show up for you and support you in the way that you like to be supported, in the way that you need to be supported. It feels like it's the piece that's been missing. So I really hope that you'll come over to the community and join. Like I said, it's free, and it always will be. There is one group right now, and I'm working on several other groups. There is all types of there's a bunch of different threads in the forum. I don't know if that's what they're called. That's what I'm going with though. And there's plenty of opportunity for you to add questions, comments, other types of threads, anything that you're interested in. There's plenty of opportunity for you to add whatever it is that you want to talk about, whatever you're worried about, concerned about, learning about, any information that you want to share about. It's all there. So I really hope that you'll come over and join. You can find the community at infjwoman.com/INFJ community. And there's a link for it in the show notes. Thank you so much for listening. I really appreciate every single one of you. Please make sure that you subscribe if you haven't already. And leave a review wherever you listen to the podcast. It helps other people to be able to find us. Thanks again for listening, and I will see you again next week.